I wanted to start off talking just a little bit about Celebrate Your Awesome. So on our first slide here, all that I wanted to do was introduce my colleague Jim Waddington and myself as Lisa Post, and we're two of our group of wonderful people who work really hard to make Celebrate Your Awesome a possibility in this community. So Jim's going to start with giving a little bit of a history of Celebrate Your Awesome and where it came from. So Jim, over to you.
And good afternoon, everyone. This is an awesome display, by the way. That's great pictures, Lisa. Congratulations. I have no tech savvy, so this is 100% Lisa, and I certainly appreciate it. We're both happy to be here today, obviously, to present to you. And hopefully all of you have had an opportunity to experience Celebrate Your Awesome. I guess 4 years ago, I had this vision that it was time to move a little bit more forward with our diversity and our inclusion in our community. Constantly hearing about Pride Toronto and the 10th anniversary of, for example, World Pride and all that kind of thing. And I thought, wow, you know, we really are not in the loop at this point. So why don't we create something? And so I guess our first meeting was at the Mill Creek Pub, believe it or not. And it didn't take long. I had asked, I think Lisa was probably the first person to join. And I said, you know, let's look at a few other people. You can see the people in the picture. Joe was part of that. And I actually need to archive it, which is important. And I haven't done that yet or spoke to the Museum of Dufferin, but we will. The meeting was very successful. There was absolutely no, I don't think I'm interested. The commitment was there. Certainly the enthusiasm was there. And from there, we just all sat down and started brainstorming. And our first brainstorm was what Lisa is going to talk about.
So when Jim first approached us and started talking about this idea of a pride and inclusion and diversity, we were kind of all over the place. We were talking about so many different ideas, trying to bring it all together. But the theme was really just being community and making our community a more inclusive and better place, safer place to be. So my daughter at the time was, I guess, 10 or 11, was part of the first committee. You'll see her in the photo there. Her name's Charlie. So as we started to brainstorm different things about this event and what it would bring and what it was going to look like, Charlie's idea was actually to call it Celebrate Your Awesome, because we weren't just celebrating Pride, we weren't just celebrating the LGBTQ community, we weren't just celebrating cultural differences or religious differences or anything else. We were celebrating each and everything about each of us that makes us special and awesome and unique. And that's what we really wanted to bring. We wanted it to be a flavor that everybody could come, and regardless of what it was that makes them special or different or awesome, was going to be celebrated, and that they knew that they were coming to a safe place. So every event day, Jim is usually the man behind the camera, but we've been so fortunate to have such a wonderful group of photographers in our community who have jumped in and taken tons of photos for us. So as I said here, a picture is worth 1,000 words, and our event day is filled with, and Jim's going to start it off here.
Well, obviously, look at the color. That's the key thing here, is that we wanted to make sure it was bright, funny, happy, full of love, and full of joy. And in Guelph, there is a group called Troy Boy Entertainment, and we hired them as part of the drag show component, which has also stemmed throughout Orangeville out over the last few years. Perhaps some of you have attended some of their shows. And at the bottom, of course, with all of that beautiful color and dresses, we had the, what was it called, Lisa, again? They had Sassy?
Swing and Sass. Swing and Sass.
Swing and Sass, yes. So they have different names, but it is a dance group in Orangeville. And they have participated every year, including our virtual one that we had just had back in June. So you can see entertainment galore. The crowds were gathered. It was just absolutely awesome. So there's the first slide.
One of the key things that we try and do when we're bringing love and fun to our Celebrate Your Awesome, Jim works really hard with the entertainment piece to make sure that we're keeping it local and keeping it diverse and trying to find a variety of different musicians and dancers and drag queens and entertainers, so that there's something for everybody. The other key piece about our images is rainbows. You'll notice when you jump over to the Celebrate Your Awesome Facebook page or anything to do with Celebrate Your Awesome, we're all about rainbows. The reason for that is that, as most of you know, I'm sure, the LGBTQ plus flag is a rainbow flag. And for people in that community, the rainbow flag is typically shown as a symbol of inclusion and acceptance. It symbolizes a community where they can feel safe and where they can feel included and where they can participate. So when you look through these photos, one of the things that I love about this is our symbols of youth. You can see the next generation that's coming up through our community is filled with rainbows and cheery love and acceptance. The person in the very bottom right there, the flag that they're wearing is actually the trans flag. So we're celebrating everybody. You'll see the pink and blue flag for trans. You'll see the rainbow flag for the rest of the LGBTQ community. And we try and fill our day with rainbows. And learning, that's the next piece that Jim will focus on.
Yes, I thought we really wanted to make sure that there was a component of education involved with this. Similar to all other sort of, we'll call it minority groups that are presently trying to bring their message to a focus or to a front. And this part is really important. And as you can see the list that's there, all of those groups, whether it be public health, whether it be Choices Youth Shelter, Family Transition Place, both colleges, both Humber and Georgian, Community Living Dufferin, certainly the online support group with the LGBTQ community. The Rainbow Ridge was involved. And again, how many people know that the Rainbow Ridge exists? Perhaps we can chat about that later. But in our own community, in Dufferin County, we have one of the very few gay and lesbian resorts in Dufferin. So also, of course, FTP was involved and other organizations that were just absolutely thrilled to participate, get the word out. But as you can see, again, age is not an issue. All of the different backgrounds were involved, and the education component is a key to moving forward. And as you'll notice, it says Community Partners Unite. And again, that's what it's all about, is unity, learning, education, moving forward as one.
As we moved through the formation of our committee and what we wanted to accomplish with Celebrate Your Awesome, that learning component became extremely important. And it was very clear, the more that we talked to community partners, was that there was a ton of resources in our communities. And for people who were unsure or questioning or who had recently come out, they didn't know where they could go to find the information that they needed. We wanted to provide in one space a resource where people could go and be safe and ask the hard questions and have them answered. We continued that at our last in-person Celebrate Your Awesome event, which unfortunately was in 2019, not 2020. We brought for the first time some real life learning component as well, which was our Awesome Human Library in partnership with the Orangeville Library. And it was incredible. What we did, if you're not familiar with the Human Library, is the people are the books, and you can check out a person and sit and have a wonderful conversation. And it was very candid, and it was very raw and open and emotional. But we were able to bring that learning to life. So we had people from a variety of different backgrounds, whether they were gay or transgender, or whether they were recently out of the closet, or whether they had been out for a very long time. And people could come and ask the questions about what their experiences were like. And it sold out. We were, every spot was full. It was absolutely an amazing, incredible partnership with the library that we were really looking forward to doing again this year. And we look forward to bringing it back to our next in-person event. And maybe we can find a way to do it virtually. That'll be a chat for me and Shannon at a later date, I guess. But some of that component that you see there is our Awesome Human Library, which was just absolutely incredible.
I would say on that note too, apparently with the library doing these things, it was the most successful of all of their real life books. as far as I was told anyway. And if you'll notice, it wasn't just the LGBTQ community. All right, there are other people in the picture, both therapists and seniors that were also telling their story. It was absolutely brilliant. And kudos again to Lisa for basically orchestrating that with the library. We're really happy to be partnering with them.
And I think the biggest theme with Celebrate Your Awesome that Jim's going to talk about is it's all about community. So as we've now moved into just finishing our third year, with our third year being a virtual event, I wanted Jim to take a moment to speak about some of the things that we've noticed that Celebrate Your Awesome has done as positively in our community, because we've seen definitely a lot of changes when it comes to inclusion and togetherness. So I wanted Jim to just touch on that for a moment.
Yeah, I think if you look at the top picture, for example, leading up to this, you know that obviously there was questions because of other people having, we'll call them pride events. And one of the first questions was, well, are you going to invite? And it was like, are you going to invite these people or these people? And if you look at the top picture, yes, I even had that question. It was, are you inviting our police department? Of course we are. And if you'll notice, they in turn came in pink, because that's what this was all about, is that it's an inclusive and it's a community all together. It's togetherness. And if you look at the pictures around, they're the ones that actually tell the story. You look at the bus on the far left, well, guess what? The gentleman there is responsible as a supervisor in Grand Valley for the Atridge Bus Company, a huge supporter, a good friend. The top right, you have a doctor who is volunteering his time to support and encourage and be part of this whole event. The key reason here for calling it awesome is that if you look at all of these different people, they're all awesome. It doesn't matter of your background or your nationality or your race or your color or your religion. It doesn't matter. The idea here is that you're coming for a day of celebration, and you're coming to celebrate yourself as well as your community. I think I have to say though that there have been a lot of extensions from Celebrate Your Awesome. There have been little groups that have been meeting. There's been support groups. We've had sort of family transition place asking if they could be part of some type of ability to provide space, which of course is always a key if you wanted to meet or just have an afternoon or a social evening. There's been groups in Shelburne. There are the Dufferin County Council has been very supportive. As a matter of fact, this year, and let's say starting at the first year, the second year, the third year, the Orangeville Town Hall raised the pride flag along with the police services. Next year, you had Shelburne involved. This year, you had the community, you had Dufferin County raising their flag. And then all of a sudden, there were some issues, which we won't get into, but you know, people were now standing up and saying, "Oh, hold on, yes, it needs to be inclusive. Yes, it does need to be part of." And I think that's very, very important to see how this progression has come. And for the most part, based on this awesome committee that has created this Celebrate Your Awesome, again, pride and diversity in Dufferin. So we are now even being archived in the Museum of Dufferin. I met with them back in the fall. There were several members that got together, and we spoke with those that were in charge of the museum. And moving forward, everything is being archived now because it wasn't before.
I think one of the things that our committee is most proud of is some of the tough conversations that have come out of this. And Jim alluded to a few of them that have happened over the last few months. And what's been amazing is that the community outreach has been incredible. We've seen a change and a shift in the message of inclusion in our community and in our greater community of Dufferin County as well. And the fact that anything but inclusion will not be tolerated. That message has been loud and clear, and that's been amazing for anybody who's struggled with being included in a community before. Being able to see that togetherness is there and that people have their back makes all the difference in the world when we're talking about a safe and welcoming Dufferin County.
I think it also stems for the future generations. You notice a lot of young people who are now sort of expressing themselves more, who are more able or more willing to come out, if you will, or to just be themselves and be comfortable being themselves, knowing that they're living in a safe environment, which is totally key. And again, that's one of our big messages.
It definitely is. So as we wrap up, you'll see a picture of a whole bunch of our youth in our community who were joining for one of the drag shows at the end of our very first year, I believe that one was from. So with that note, we will stop our presentation and ask if there's any questions or comments that anybody would like to have. I think this is an excellent time for discussion.